Welcome, everybody, to the launch of Rhoda's Journey. It's a book written by Collier. You probably haven't heard of Rosalind Collier, but I'm sure you've heard of Norma Inch. So she is the author of the book today. She's here to talk about it. I've known Norma for about 45 years, and we were neighbors when we lived on Perry Crescent together. Um, We've been friends and we've been Scrabble buddies ever since. Now, I knew that Norma had a really good command of the English language. I also knew she's a formidable Scrabble opponent. But I was very surprised when she told me she'd written a book. She sent it to me. It was the original word view version. I'm reading it on my phone, and I couldn't stop reading. I stayed up late at night. I was reading it at physiotherapy, and I couldn't put it down. Rhoda's journey moves from modern day England back into the pre-war and wartime Nazi Germany. But in spite of the fact that the topic is not always a happy one, it managed to be a very heartwarming story. Today we're dealing with the same book that I read on my phone. So in Word version, we're dealing with the same book in published paperback format. There's a beautiful cover designed by Norma's friend Wendy Morris. I'm not sure if she's the Wendy that's on here or not, but Wendy is a professional artist and did our beautiful cover. And the other person I should mention is my nephew, Tom McCaver, who's handling the duties of host so that Norma and I can just talk with everybody. Okay. So, Norma, my first question, I hope you don't mind me asking, and let's get you unmuted first. Get Norma unmuted. Okay, there you are. Okay.
We do have to, she does have to unmute herself. So you should
Okay.
see that at the bottom of your window where you see the microphone, Norma. There you go.
Okay, am I all right now? Can you
Uh,
hear me?
yes, yes,
Okay,
that's great. Okay, so my first question, and I hope you don't mind me asking, is how old are you?
I'm 88.
Wow, okay. So, and when did you first decide that you wanted to be an author?
Well, the short answer, Colleen, is for as long as I can remember. But the long answer is that I learned to read when I was very young, long, long before I went to kindergarten, probably when I was about 3 years old. And you have to learn to read first, and then you can want to write. And I guess that as soon as I learned to read, I decided that I wanted to write books too. When I was little, if anyone asked me what I wanted to be when I was a grown up, I always said I wanted to be an author. And maybe my family, perhaps they thought it was a little bit cute, but they certainly didn't take me seriously. It was like, like kids who say they want to be firefighters or astronauts or, or cowboys. That was it.
Mhm.
Anyway, when I was around 6, I had a short story published in a local newspaper. But I'm going to admit that it's much more probable that it was printed because my father advertised his business in the newspaper every week, and I don't think it had anything to do with my talent at all. And then I had a short story when I was 10 years old, published in our annual school magazine. And after that, over the years, if I got an idea for a short story, well, I would I would write that story because it was something I enjoyed and I just got the pleasure out of writing it. It was never anything that I've thought about publishing. It was just something I enjoyed doing. And then when my grandchildren were born, I wrote a series of short stories just for them. And after that, really, I haven't had what I would call any professional training. One of my greatest regrets all my life was that I never had the opportunity to go to university. England in the 50s was a very sexist place, and girls were actively discouraged from going to university. They said I had things said to me like, "Oh, you'll only get married and waste all that time," or even more horrible was, "Oh, well, you'll just be taking a place away from a boy who needs it." So my family, I'm not talking about my family back home, I'm talking about my family here in Toronto. My daughter and my husband obviously knew all about how disappointed I was because I talk about it at times. And when my daughter Stacey started university, she went online and she found a distance learning university out in Alberta called Athabasca University. And she and my late husband nagged and nagged and nagged and nagged me to take a course. And I finally just couldn't stand it any longer. I had to get them off my back. So I decided I would sign up for one course and that would be it and, finish. Well, I signed up for one course and of course I was hooked and I went all the way through and got my Bachelor of Arts degree. And two of the courses I took during that time were creative writing courses and I absolutely loved them.
So Norma, you wrote under a pen name, and I'm wondering why you chose to do that.
Um, well, when I was growing up, almost all authors use pen names, and I just kind of felt it was something I wanted to do.
So how did you come to write Rhoda's Journey? There's a story behind it?
Oh, yes, well, COVID started, and we were all locked down, and things were very miserable. And my daughter Stacey again went online and found that the Toronto Public Library were doing some free online courses for seniors, and she thought, maybe there'd be something I'd be interested in. And so I went on, and I found that they had two fiction writing courses. One was about writing mystery fiction, and the other one was advanced fiction writing. So I eventually signed up for both of them back to back. Um, they were 12-week courses. You had 12 sessions. Each session covered a different sort of topic or method of writing. And then at the end of the session, you were given a project and you then sent the project into the lecturer and he would send it back to you with comments. And anyway, COVID continued on and I'd I'd cleaned every closet, every shelf, every drawer in my condo. I wasn't going to do that again. And sort of bored and not sure what I wanted to do, but, excuse me. And I thought to myself, I've got all this information about Rhoda's journey, and why don't I write about it? I've got it all put there. I mean, we had to figure out things like, I'm sorry, I had to take a drop of water. You have to excuse me. Some of the questions were like, come up with a plan for your book, come up with a name for your book, do your first paragraph, do your final paragraph, do various scenarios dealing with whatever you'd learnt that week. And I thought, okay, I can sit down there and I'll write it. And that's what I did.
Did you set out trying to write a novel?
Oh God, absolutely not. I mean, I've always only written short stories, and this was going to be a short story, and I started to write it, and all of a sudden, the characters in the story, particularly the peripheral characters, started screaming at me that they wanted more attention, that they wanted a bigger part in the story, and that they wanted me to deal with certain things. And so I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and my short story became a novel that's almost 400 pages long.
Wow. Wow. So how long did it take you to write Rhoda's Journey?
Well, I started, as I say, in 2020, and I finished the first draft in 2023. And then since then, I've been going over the draft and redoing the draft and fine-tuning it ever since. So I'd say nearly 6 years in all.
Okay. So, and what led you to choose the particular subject matter in Rhoda's Journey?
Well, I wanted to write a mystery story, but I didn't want to write a murder story. I don't think that that's the type of thing that I'd be very good at. And I also felt that I wanted to use time periods that I'd lived through and I knew something about. I felt that that was much better than write, that you should always write about something you know. You shouldn't write about things you don't know.
So, are you planning to write another book?
I do have an idea for another book, but I'm not ready at this point to actually sit down and work on it. That's something in a little bit in the future.
So stay tuned. So,
Yeah, yeah, stay tuned. That's right.
okay, and I guess I've got a couple of fun facts to ask.
Yes.
Um, First one, what was your favorite book as a child?
My favorite book as a child was a book called The Bear Bus, and it was all about teddy bears. Anybody that knows me knows I love teddy bears. And it was all about teddy bears that were able to come alive and they all lived together in a little house and they had all these wonderful adventures and got into all kinds of scrapes. It's a lovely book and I even take it off the shelf now sometimes and read a few pages because it's just delightful. There's actually a very interesting story about this book, which I'm not going to elaborate on now, but if anybody's interested, I'm always very happy to share that with them.
Okay. And what about now? What types of books appeal to you at this stage?
Well, let's go a little further on from the bear bus. So later
Okay.
on,
Hmm.
I got into Agatha Christie and I loved reading Agatha Christie stories. And in fact, I've got all her books. I finally collected them all. And then I moved on to a British author called John le Carre that some people may know about. To me, he's the epitome of an author who's writing spy stories. Um, you may some of you may have seen a very old movie called The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, and there's a much more recent movie called The Constant Gardener, and both of those are based on John le Carre novels. And now, my favorite novels to read are Louise Penny novels. And for anybody that's not Canadian, she's also a mystery story writer. And so really it's not really a wonder that I chose to write a mystery story myself.
So now we come to a little bit of a different part of our presentation today. Norma's going to give us a short explanation of Rhoda's journey and then read an excerpt from the book.
Okay. Okay, so this is my synopsis. Um, is everybody still hearing me, Tom?
We
Yes.
we can still
Okay.
hear you.
Yes, okay. Rhoda Lewis is a young woman living in London, England in the late 1990s. Soon after buying a vintage amber brooch from a local shop, she finds an old black and white photograph of a little girl hidden in the lining of the jewelry box and becomes determined to find the owner and return the brooch to her if she's still alive. Along with Rhoda's story is the story of Hannah Law Ginsburg, the little girl in the photograph. Flashbacks to the 1930s and 40s tell of her early life in Nazi Germany, her harrowing journey to England on one of the Kindertransports, and her adjustment to life in England with her foster parents. It also tells what happens to her parents who are trapped in Germany, including her father's incarceration in the Dachau concentration camp. Now, I'm going to ask everybody that's tuned in, and I don't know how many people are tuned in, but I'd like to know how many of you actually have heard of the Kinder Transport. And if you are people who heard of it through me and didn't know about it before, you don't count as a yes, you count as a no. So I'd like to know how many yeses there are.
And you can do that by reacting with the either the hands raised or the thumbs up.
Hmm.
We got about 4 or 5 people who responded yes.
Oh, I think you've got a lot there from I'm watching them all going up. That's lovely. Well, now I'm going to ask another question. Out of all the people that did their thumbs up, how many of you actually know what the Kindertransport was? So you need to click in again. Oh, looks like almost everybody. Okay. So, oh, that's wonderful. Okay, can I get the screen so I can show people the cover of the book now, Tom?
The cover of the book is up right now for everybody to see on the screen
Yes, but
share.
well, can they see all of it? Because I can see people covering it. So can they actually see all the book, or should I hold it up?
They can see it.
They can see all of it. Okay, that's fine. So I want to explain what the pictures are in the book because it obviously has very much to do with the book. Right in the center, of course, is the amber brooch. And the little girl that is sitting on the left, that is Hannah Ginsburg. And if you can see, the train is crashing through the Amber Brooch. That is one of the Kinder Transport trains. And I don't know if my wonderful illustrator has made it in or not, but she went to the library and she researched and actually found illustrations of the actual Kinder Transport trains, and this is a picture of one of the actual Kinder Transport trains, which is to me is absolutely wonderful. Okay, now I've got a couple of excerpts that I'm going to read. I've got two excerpts. One is the prologue, and the other one is part of chapter one. Prologue, Munich, winter 1938. I don't know why Vati and Mutti are so sad. They used to smile and laugh all the time. Mutti would sing as she worked around our apartment, and Vati would pick me up in the air and swing me around before putting me down and giving me a big kiss when he came home from work. Now I see Mutti crying when she doesn't think I'm watching, and Vati just pats me on the head before going to sit in his armchair. And sometimes Vati doesn't go to work at all. I don't like it. I want my old Mutti and Vati back. Vati is the best tailor in the world. Lots of important men come to have their suits and overcoats made by him. Sometimes he takes me to work with him. I sit in the corner and play with my dog Greta. I bring a little bag with all her clothes in it. Vati has made all her outdoor clothes, and I like to change her into something new and then take her to look at herself in Vati's big mirror. Of course, if one of the important men comes to see him, I have to sit quietly in a chair and look at one of my picture books. I'm as quiet as a little mouse, and most of the men don't see me or pretend they don't. Herr Eberhard isn't like that. He always gives me a big smile when he sees me. How's my little girlfriend today? He says, and then he bows and gives me a big kiss on the hand, just like I'm a grown-up lady. When he's finished trying whatever Fatty is making for him, he goes downstairs to Herr Gutmann's shop and comes back with a bag of sweets for me. I wish all the men that Fatty works for were as nice as he is. Fatty doesn't take me with him to work anymore. He says I'm a big girl now and need to stay home and help Mutti. But I always help Mutti anyway. I tidy up my toys before I go to bed, and I put the knives, forks, and spoons on the table when Mutti is getting the dinner ready. I don't put the plates and glasses on the table, though. Mutti says I'm too young to do that yet. Mutti sews all my dresses, blouses, and skirts, but every year Vati makes me a new winter coat and bonnet. I'm getting so much bigger that last year's coat doesn't fit me now. I hope that Fatty will make me a new coat and bonnet again this year, but maybe he's too sad to think about it. If he does, I'd like it to be red. That's my favorite color. 2 days ago, I went upstairs to ask my friend Ilse if she wanted to play. The door to her apartment was open, and no one was there. Vati said she and her family had gone to visit relatives in the country, but I don't understand. Ilse should have told me. She's my best friend and tells me everything. Last night I heard Vati and Matti talking after I'd gone to bed. Usually they talk quietly, but tonight they were angry with each other. I don't know why. I crept to the living room door so I could hear them. She needs me, said Matti, and I need her. What would I do with myself without her? Fatty sounded really cross. I'm going to talk to Herr Aberhart tomorrow. He's a good man, not like the others, and I think he'll help us. After what happened in November, we need to get her to somewhere safe. Mutti started to cry. She's safe with me, and how could a little girl like her travel all by herself? I could hear Fatty get up from his chair. I think he must have gone over to Mutti. He hates to see her cry. I know it's not what I want, but I can't get visas for all the family, and we must look after our daughter. Now I'm going to go to the kitchen and make us both a nice cup of coffee while we still have some left. That will make you feel better, Liebchen. I tiptoed back to my room. Vati would not have been pleased if he'd caught me listening, but now I felt sad too. Why would Vati want to send me away? Chapter 1, London, 1998. There it was in the jewelry shop window, the amber brooch that would change my life. It was a lovely day, mild for the beginning of autumn, and I decided to walk home from work. So I was just dawdling along, glancing in the windows of the shops on High Street as I made my way to my flat. But when I saw the brooch, I stopped to take a closer look. It was sitting at the back of the window in a blue velvet box. The velvet on the box was faded and worn away in places, and the metal around the stone was so tarnished it was hard to see if it was silver or gold, but something drew me to it. After a second look, I continued on my way home, but over the next couple of weeks, whenever I passed the shop, I would stop and look to see if the brooch was still in the window. For some reason, I was relieved when I saw it was. You have to understand that I'm not a jewelry type of person. When not at work, I usually dress in t-shirts and jeans, and the only jewelry I own and wear all the time is the gold pendant with a six-pointed star that Grandpa Joe gave me for my 21st birthday. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about the brooch until finally I decided that I had to buy it. Well, before I go any further, I should tell you a little bit more about myself. My name is Rhoda Lewis, and I'm 28 years old. I suppose the best way to describe myself is ordinary. I'm of average height and average build. My brown hair is straight, and I wear it either shoulder length or pulled back in a ponytail. I have an oval face with regular features, and my eyes are also brown. So, as I said, ordinary. That's better than saying plain, I think. When I'm at work, I wear a simple blouse and skirt, but on my evenings off and on weekends, it's always casual shirts or t-shirts and jeans. Nana Helen and Grandpa Joe always insisted that I was pretty, but that's because they loved me. I've had a few boyfriends over the years, but none have come to anything, and a couple of times the breakups have been very painful, so I prefer my own company. I'm quite happy being single, even though my grandparents would have loved to have seen me married. I've always lived in this London suburb of Denham with my Grandpa Joe and Nana Helen, and adored them as much as they adored me. Grandpa Joe was the demonstrative one. He always kissed and hugged me in the morning and again at bedtime, and he was proud of everything I did. I loved to cuddle up on his lap in the evenings while we all sat watching our little black and white television. By contrast, Nana Helen was not demonstrative at all. I don't ever remember her hugging me, and she was always critical if I didn't do things to her high standards or get less than perfect mark at school. I rarely saw Grandpa Joe lose his temper, but Nana Helen had a quick temper, and we never knew when something would set her off. Nevertheless, she would show her love in lots of little ways, but would swat you away if you tried to thank her. They say that opposites attract, and it was certainly true where my grandparents were concerned. Grandpa Joe died suddenly 5 years ago from a massive heart attack, and I continued living with Nana Helen after that. Nana Helen never really got over losing Grandpa Joe. He was her rock, and as far as I could tell, the only person she ever really trusted. Nana Helen and Grandpa Joe's marriage had been a very happy one. He'd been the only boy she ever went out with, and they'd married when they were very young, so I just thought she couldn't get over grieving for him. However, about 2 years ago, she became forgetful and confused and was diagnosed with dementia. I managed well at first. She went to a daycare center during the week, and the 2 evenings that I worked, our neighbor would come in and sit with her. But when she started to wander at night, at the beginning of last year, I had no choice but to move her into a home. I spent a long time checking on various homes and finally found the ideal place in Glenstow, a small town just outside London. They'd had many years of great reviews, and their standard of care and kindness is excellent. It's not cheap, but between government grants, her widow's pension from Grandpa Joe's work, and the sale of the house, I can cover the cost. It's only a 90-minute drive from Denham to Glenstow, and I visit Nana Helen every weekend, but the dementia is now so much worse, and some days she doesn't even know me. Lately, too, there have been days when Nana Helen doesn't even talk, just stares vacantly at the walls of her room. Dedham was originally a small town, but was absorbed into the Greater London area some years ago. In many ways, it still retains its small town atmosphere, with its main road, the commonly named High Street, a small owner-operated shops, and more houses and blocks of flats. After Nana Helen moved into the nursing home, I rented a ground floor studio in an older house that had been renovated into 3 flats. My flat has a separate entrance, accessed at the back of the house, and apart from a polite greeting, if I ever meet one of the other tenants going in or out of the building, I don't really know them. And that's exactly the way I like it. As you can see, I'm a very private person. I'm rather shy around other people. I'm very happy with my own company, and once I get home from work and on weekends, it's my refuge, where I can curl up with a good book or watch a murder mystery on the TV. During the day, I work at the Bookworm Books shop and just love it. Grandpa Joe and Nana Helen wanted me to study to be a librarian when I left school. But that meant going to college and sitting in classes with lots of strangers, both boys and girls, and I was too scared to do that. Instead, I found this perfect job and have been there ever since. My boss, Olga, is a wonderful person, though somewhat mercurial. I suppose some people would find her eccentric, but I think it's just part of her personality, and she's always been a caring employer to me. Twice a week, I work an evening shift as a waitress at the Perky Penguin, a pub-style restaurant. Our clientele are mostly seniors, people I'm comfortable with, and my pay there and tips help towards extras after rent and groceries and for the little treats I take to Nana Helen. The other staff are nice, and our manager Elizabeth is always pleasant and ready to help out when it gets busy. I've been really happy there, but about 6 months ago, a new waitress, Laura Bates, was hired. Laura is tall and slim, with long blonde hair and a pretty face that hides her vicious nature. She quickly became very popular with our clientele because she is so sweet and kind to their faces, although she mocks them and calls them the hill brigade behind their backs. She's full of herself and from the very beginning has shown that she considers herself far better than the rest of us. The other waitresses don't like her either, but each of them deals with it in their own way. Some ignore her, while the others suck up to her, so she happily lords it over all of them. As for Elizabeth, she never sees when Laura is bullying me. She has her own little cubbyhole of an office, so rarely comes into our locker room. Laura's always careful to act sweetly towards me when Elizabeth is around. Elizabeth is someone who always sees the best in others, so she misses what the rest of us see and only sees what a competent waitress Laura is. I've just tried to keep out of Laura's way, but she soon realized that I was an easy target to bully. She'll grab one of my tables when the customers are known to be good tippers, knock my arm as I'm carrying out my orders to try and make me drop them and irritate both the kitchen and the customers, and make loud comments about my inefficiency within my customers' hearing. There've even been times when she's run over to clear the table and scoop up my tip. I thought of saying something to Elizabeth, but as I said, when Elizabeth is in the area, Laura is all kindness and helpfulness. So I don't think Elizabeth would believe me anyway, and if Laura found out I complained about her, it would only make things worse. Talking of worse, a few weeks after Laura had started working at the Perky Penguin, there was a vacancy for a sous chef in the kitchen, and Laura recommended her boyfriend, Georgie Wilkins, for the job. So now I also have someone in the kitchen who holds my orders or gets them wrong deliberately. Between them, they make my life a misery, but I need the extra money from the job, and it's the only restaurant close to home. And anyway, we are just coming out of a recession, and new jobs are hard to find. Now you know all about me, and I need to get back to the amber brooch. I kept looking at it over the course of those 2 weeks, but I couldn't make up my mind about buying it. I had a little bit of money saved up to buy a new coat at the end of winter sales, but decided I could wait another year. I was definitely going to buy the brooch. For the first time, my day at the bookworm dragged. Very few customers came into the shop, and those that did either knew exactly what they wanted or just were there to browse. I had plenty time to think of the brooch. Why did I feel so drawn to it? What was the point of buying it? I could hardly wear it on a t-shirt. Would I be able to afford it? There hadn't been a price tag on the box. What would Nana Helen tell me to do? Finally, at the end of the day, I'd made up my mind that I had to have it. Olga left early for her yoga class, and I hurriedly tidied up the shop as it was almost closing time. And then, as I was heading to the front to lock the door, a young woman rushed in, promising she would only be a few minutes. Her minutes stretched on to half an hour, and then she left without buying anything. It was getting late, and maybe the jewelry shop would be closed. Perhaps it was a sign that I shouldn't buy the brooch after all. I pulled on my jacket and rapidly locked up before someone else arrived. Normally, I enjoyed my slow walk along the parade of shops, but this time I just flew along the road. As I neared the jewelry shop, though, I found my pace slowing. Finally, I decided that if it was already closed, it would definitely be a sign that I wasn't meant to buy the brooch. But if it was open, then I would go in. Which would it be? When I got there, the shop was open. My mind had been made up for me. As I pushed open the door to the shop, a bell rang somewhere inside. The jeweler, a small elderly man with a totally bald head who was helping a young couple, looked up and gave me a welcoming smile. I would like to just add a little something. For anybody that buys the book, I would really encourage you that after you read the book, there is an article called Truth in Fiction, and I suggest that you read it because there's a lot in there about the different incidents and things that happened in the book and how I came to write them. Okay,
Okay,
that's it for me.
that's it for you. Okay, so I guess we should talk about if people want to get the book, how do they do that? So first of all, the cost of the book is $25. And for those of you who are in Toronto, you can send Norma an email, and she's going to have her own copies that she can distribute to you. And she'll autograph those copies, which is an added bonus. For those of you who live out of town, the book will be available on Amazon, and that is as of tomorrow. And if you still want Norma to do an autograph and you live out of town, then just let her know, and she'll have some sort of what is it, Norma? Just
I would just do an autograph, and I will send it on an email, and you can paste it into the front of your book. Oh, and I would just like to add, this is not only for out of towners, anybody that has signed in from abroad. I have people, I think, who may have signed in from the US, and relatives and friends in the UK. There's my wonderful friend Annegien, who lives in the Netherlands, and my wonderful niece Debbie in Israel. Um, Also, for people who are getting this on the recorded version, uh, you too can get the book on Amazon. And this is a shout out to Leon and Nicole if you're in Peru and can't sign in here, to my longtime friend Dorothy in Australia, my two wonderful friends, Masako and Akiko in Japan, and my great nephew Sam, who at the moment is in Goa, India.
Okay.
Okay, back to you, Colleen.
Okay, well, I think we probably have time for some questions and answers. So, and should we see, Tom, should we get the whole panorama of all the people? Do you think that would work? Then we can see who's asking a question.
Absolutely. So anybody who has a question, you're welcome to raise your hand and I will call on you to ask a question. We can start out with Doris, who is super eager to ask a question. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh, get here.
You just need to unmute yourself, Doris, before we can hear you.
Doris, you have to unmute yourself.
They're working on it. They're working on it.
Okay, okay.
Usually, if you're doing it on a computer, the microphone's in the bottom left corner that you can click.
Sorry.
There you go.
Okay.
Welcome.
Okay,
Hi,
that's
Doris.
fine.
Luck.
That's fine.
First of all, congratulations, Norma. It's a wonderful thing. You have accomplished a great deal at
Oh,
your
thank
tender
you.
age. Earlier, we were talking about the kinder transport, right? How it brought many children to safety. Now, just question, were there any other groups doing the same thing, as far as you know?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think a lot of you have heard recently about a wonderful man called Nicholas Winton, who brought 400 children out of Czechoslovakia, out of Prague. Um, there's two movies that are made about him. One was a documentary called Nicky's Children, which I cried every time I watched it, and the other one was a movie, I think, just last year called One Life that Anthony Hopkins played Nicholas Winton. There were a lot of Jewish groups that actually also um, were active in bringing children to England, and there were non-Jewish groups too. One specifically I know of is the Quakers.
Great. Thank you very much.
We also have a question from Myra, if I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You can unmute yourself or go right ahead.
Yeah,
Hi, Myra.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you
Yeah,
beautifully.
I live in the same building as Stacy.
Yes, I know who you
Oh,
are.
you know who I am. Okay. So if I send you, can you leave the can Stacy get the book for me and I'll give her I can pick it up from her?
Oh, well, when I come and stay with Stacey, once I have
Mhm.
the book,
Yeah, once
I
you have
will
the book,
I
can you
will
let me know?
yeah, I will let you know and I will give you and then I can come and give you the book personally.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Stacy knows who I am. Stacy knows exactly who I am.
Well, I remember you from Bryna's party, so I know
No, but
exactly
I've
who you
seen
are
you
too.
around. We've seen each other in the building, but I don't go out that much.
Yeah,
I'm not well.
okay. Well, I'll make sure that I can bring the book to you.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Okay, thank you.
And just as a fellow human here, I also recommend sending her an email just in case, so she can have a list of everybody she needs to take care of.
And the email is very, very easy. It's Norma Inch 606, and that's all one word at gmail.com. Any other questions?
I do.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Norma, it's Lynn.
Oh, hi, Lynn.
Tell me more about the Kinder transport. I had not heard about it before.
Okay, well, you've heard of Kristallnacht, the Night of
Yes.
Broken
Hmm.
Glass, which was in November 1938, and it was then that the Jews in Germany realized, I mean, they'd gone through terrible times, they'd lost their jobs, they'd been fired from universities, they'd been not allowed to practice law or
I
medicine,
want you to
an
stay home. I don't want
orchestra.
you to go to Metro. Why? I don't want any food.
Oh,
Um,
I'm muted.
uh, and but they suddenly realized that writing was really on the wall. And by that time, most of them had very little money and they couldn't get the whole family out unless they maybe had a relative that could bring them out. But they were desperate to get their children out. So from December 1938 to September 1st, 1939, when World War II started, that was when the Kindertransports ran, and they actually managed to bring out and bring to England to safety 10,000 children.
Oh my, wow, that's amazing.
All right, we have a question from Leandro. Did I
Hi,
pronounce your name correctly? We can't
hi,
hear
Lena.
you, unfortunately. You might need to adjust your settings for your microphone. No, we can't hear you at the moment. Oh, I think if next to the microphone button, there's an up arrow next to it, and you might need to select the microphone for your fancy headset there. In the meantime, does anybody else have a question while he's getting himself fixed up there?
Norma, I have a question. I don't have my hand raised, but I
Okay, well, I can hear you.
you had mentioned at one point that you had a lot of the sort of minor characters kind of screaming to get a bigger role. Can you give us an
Yes.
example?
Well, Olga, her employer is one of them. Olga was just a very peripheral character, and she becomes a very important part of the book. Um, I hadn't initially um, decided that when I was writing a short story, was going to have Rhoda finding, the little girl in the photograph, and I hadn't really decided on writing that backstory. But then Hannah Law started jumping up and down and telling me that she had so much to tell me, and it became a very important part of the story, obviously. And there are other minor characters that come along that got filled out.
Hello, I would like to ask you a question too.
Go right ahead.
Anne-Marie, it's Anne-Marie Boki.
Oh, hi,
Uh,
Anne-Marie.
okay, sweetie, I'm your neighbor. And I would like to ask you I'm so glad you said that your email is normainch at 606@gmail.com. So I went to look in my contact and
Oh
Norma,
yeah, I have a different email address there, and
yeah,
I'm using this one
okay. So
for the books.
you
Yes.
don't want me to worry about the other one, Stanner at
No,
pathcom.com.
no, no. Use the Norma Inch one, please.
The Norma Inch.
Because of the pathway one is a little erratic at times, and I want to make sure I get everybody.
Okay. So I
Okay,
ignore the other one, the path.
that's right. Just use this new one.
Thank you so much. And you are fantastic. The way you deliver your delivery is, I applaud you. Bravo, bravo,
Oh, thank you. Thank
bravo.
you very much.
Yeah, it is not easy. The way it flows and it has, and it makes it interesting
Well, I
because
hope you find the book
yeah, because
interesting.
you guide us through, we go with you alongside with you. So I will be asking also Norma to talk to, it's Colleen Isherwood whenever
Oh,
you have
oh,
time.
can I interrupt you? Colleen is not a professional publisher.
No.
She
Oh,
published her own book a year ago, and she's just guided me this through this process.
oh, so who
No,
do I,
she's well, no, she's just my friend.
she's a
She's not.
friend. Oh, I
Yes.
thought you said I could ask her.
Well,
So
if you have
Norma,
to ask Colleen about that.
I can actually probably do what I did for Norma for other people, so which is take the book from a Word document into being published. But it's published
Oh,
on Kindle Direct, which is an Amazon.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow too much what you were saying.
Okay, we'll
I-
talk. We'll talk.
So I'll send an
okay.
email to
Sounds great.
Norma and then we can talk over the phone or whatever so
That
that
sounds
it be
great.
more explicit. Thank you so much. You're
Okay.
Colleen, right? You
That's
were
correct.
Colleen. Thank you so
And
much, Colin.
can I say something? I saw that Leo left a message. I want to say I'm glad that you were able to actually tune in to the live meeting, and I'm sure you're enjoying the warm air there in Lima, Peru. And I will add you to the people that were on the live broadcast and not the recorded broadcast. And hi to you and Nicole, and I hope we get the chance to see you sometime in the not too distant future.
All right, we have a question from Elaine. Go ahead, Elaine.
Okay. Norma, first of all, your reference to Lima, Peru. Do you remember when we saw the cutout of Paddington Bear in Lima, Peru?
Well, yes, but I almost said my friend in Lima, Peru, and it's not Paddington Bear, but I thought, no, I really shouldn't say that. But yes, I remember a lot about our trip to Peru.
Right. Anyway, my question was in regards to the
Shoot. Oh, sorry, that's on me. Elaine, I need you to unmute yourself again. I pressed the wrong button.
sorry,
My apologies. That was on
no,
me.
it's okay. No, my real question, Norma, was in terms of the number of children who were taken safely out of Germany to England. How many of those children, or is there a record of how many of them were ever reunited with their families?
There's no record, but I would say very, very, very few. I could tell you a little bit about about the children that went to England. The British government initially didn't want to bring any Jewish immigrants in from Europe. They weren't interested in doing it, but they got a lot of pressure, so they finally agreed that they would bring in um, Jewish children up to the age of 16. And I don't know whether they made the cutoff number 10,000 or whether it was just because that's when the war broke out. In order to get into England, every child had to be sponsored, and nobody could sponsor more than one child. And so, after you sponsor them, you also had to pay £50, and £50 was a lot of money in 1939. It's equivalent to about $1,200 Canadian today. So basically, Jewish organizations tried to rally to get people to sign on as sponsors, and they guaranteed that they didn't need to actually have the children live with them. If they sponsored and they could bring the children that brought the child in, that they would find homes for them if the sponsor didn't want that responsibility. And there were also some wealthy Jewish people who provided the money for the payments. So so the children came in, and there were stories, I should tell you, stories about people who would send in applications for every member of the family. That included the children, and some people apparently even put the names of their pets down in desperation to get as many children out of Germany as they could. But as to how many children were reunited with their parents, most children ended up staying in England or eventually going, to another country. Some certainly went to places like Australia or South Africa. But I would say, as a guess, 5% would be probably a very high amount of them.
I think we got time for one more question if we have any. No more questions? Well, I guess I'll just have to conclude by thanking Norma for being here. And I'm hoping that people will be able to buy and read Rhoda's Journey and enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed it. Oh, there is Fanny. Oh, Fanny's got a waving goodbye, I think. Okay. Anyway, it's been delightful, and I hope you've enjoyed our meeting.